So I came up with this for my Lego Wreath thing that fits on this. There's a problem with this. It's beautiful, it's great, I love it. I love its multiple colors, I love that it came out exactly like I want it. The problem is it's terrible. Let's go to the design process first and I'll explain how I got here, and then we'll look at the results after the fact. Hey folks, back in October I made this bat ornament or thing for the Lego Wreath, and I figure I'd go through and make one for this holiday season. So I'm going to go through the process here with you. You can just download it if you want, but if you're interested in the process of how to make these things, just stay tuned here. But basically, the only thing I'm stealing from this is the size of the hole, just making sure I have all of that set, and then also the thickness here, because I thought it turned out pretty nice. Next thing I need to do is, just like I did with this other one, I need to grab an image from somewhere. And I found this website called topfreedesigns.com, and there are free candy cane lollipop SVGs. I'm going to go with this top one here, but these guys, particularly this one, I'm interested in, especially because the color combinations, you can play with a lot there. But before we do anything, I'm going to just create a new part studio here. And with that part studio, I'm going to do like the most basic thing. We're going to go into sketch here. We're going to top view. And we're going to set up our two circles. So it's good. Nope, not that. Circles. We're going to go in there. This one's 0.7. And then the other one is going to be 0.9. And all that's doing is matching the sketch that we have right there. It's the exact same measurements. The only difference I need to see is how far I extruded up, which was 0.3. I think I'm going to do maybe slightly less on this one. So I'll finish that sketch. I'm going to extrude this up. I'm just going to do it 0.25. It's not a big difference, but it's different enough. And then what I'm also going to do, which I don't know if I need to do this or not, but I'm going to just because it's going to make me feel better, is I'm going to hit the letter R for a center point rectangle. We're just going to set this out. It doesn't matter where it's at right now because I'm going to extrude this whole area here. I'm just going to extrude it down, sure, 1, because again, it doesn't matter for what I'm trying to do. Basically, I want to make sure the fillet that I have in here exists. So I'm going to put a fillet in there, and it's definitely not going to be an inch. We'll maybe do 0.25. Even that sounds a little extreme. So maybe we'll go with a chamfer and see if we can build it up a little quicker, easier. So let's go 0.25 there. I still think that's a little bit much. And then what we can also do here, instead of equal distance, we can do 2 distances. So we can say, hey, we want that to go up. Distance 1 is 0.25. And maybe I only want this part of the distance to go 1/8 of an inch out. So we can adjust what's going on with that right there and get something a little better, because the last one was a little big. And then I'm going to go into sketch here. And I know this is not the proper way to do any of this, but I'm just going to end that sketch. It closes off the face. I'll remove, and instead of blind, I'm just going to do through all because I have no idea what I extruded that as. And then we have this piece. And this is all going to make sense, hopefully, here real soon. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. And this is going to be the Wreath connector. I don't know what's going on here. And I'm going to export that as an STL file for the pure reason that what I'm going to be doing does not take anything other than STL. So we're going to import that in, or export that, I guess. And then I've downloaded that file, or the candy cane here, to Affinity Designer. And I've broken it up so we have just the red shape, which is there, and then the white shape, which is hard to see, but it's there, and it's grouped of all of these individual curves. It did not come that way originally. I just grouped them up here using your cut tools to get all that set. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export 2 SVGs. One is red, one is white. So the white one's going to be first. So I'm just going to go, just clicking that button to turn it off. We'll go to export. It's going to be an SVG. And we're just going to call it CC white, and we'll save that to the desktop, and then we'll turn on the red, and then we'll go export this one, export CC, and that's going to be red SVG. Now we're going to jump back over into our design stuff here. We're not going to be using Onshape for this. We're going to go over into Tinkercad for lots of reasons that I'll get into in just a moment. But basically, what Tinkercad allows us to do is take an SVG and make it 3-dimensional. So I'm going to go up to Import. I'll choose the file, and I'm going to grab the white candy canes first because they're the ones that are there, the easiest to see. I'm going to center it on the artboard, and I'll hit Import. It's going to go through the process. It's not a big file. I think it's only like 4 or 5 kilobytes, but it's there. Okay. I'm going to change the color real quick to my presets and red just so I don't lose my mind. And then I'm going to lock that down so it doesn't move. That will matter in a little bit. mainly right now when we're going through and importing our next one, which is going to be the white pieces. So I'm going to go CC white, open that up, and import that at full scale. It should fill in all these spots, and you can see it's a very different color, which is what I wanted. All right, so I'm going to sit there and do that, and we have all of that in place now. So I'm going to try to unlock this, and then I want to change the scale of this thing, which is going to be a little bit of a problem. We have our align tool, we have mirror tool, but there's not a scale tool in here. And if I take a look at this, it's 18 point, it's not square either, which makes it a little more difficult to play with, although it's not really that big of a deal for what we're doing as far as the size goes here. It's just that if we wanted to maintain that proportion of everything, it makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. So for the height here, we're just going to change that to 0.15. So it's going to match all of that, and we'll deal with the size here in a moment, because what we need to do is we also need to import that stud that we just did. So I'm going to choose a file, and I need to go to my downloads, find the Wreath connector, and we're going to import that as millimeters at full scale, and hopefully it will be the right dimensions for us. All right, that looks promising. We'll spin that around 180 degrees, like so, and then I'm going to move that up, and that distance is going to be 0.15. And this bad boy cannot move. It has to be that size, but the rest of this can be a different size. So I'm going to highlight all of that, and we're going to play with the sizing on here, because I really honestly don't know what size this needs to be to exist to hold this whole thing. So this is going to be the part where it's a little bit of a problem. And when I was looking earlier, I saw some people who would change this to be, or when I was looking at designs, some people had a bow across here as a design I saw. It kind of fits in with the season, yes, but it also just kind of works with what we're trying to do. But let's say we make this, I don't know, let's go with 3 inches wide, and let's go with 3.5 inches long. And we'll see how that works. It's not quite there, but it's not terribly far off of what we need. What I can also do, if we wanted to, is put this bad boy in there. Sizing wise, that's going to be 0.9 by 0.9. And then we're going to copy, well, let me put up the segments first off so it's a little more rounded here. And upgrade the sides. Okay, so just double checking. 0.9, 0.9, we're going to copy and paste that. This one is going to be 0.7 by 0.7. All right, we'll change this one to a hole, and then we can use the cruise tool, I believe, to put those two together. Maybe not. This is where things can get fun real fast if you get confused about what you're doing. So what we're going to do here is grab a ruler, and we're going to put that the 0, 0 mark. 0 there, 0 there. All right, and let's go over to our top view just so we can see everything fully. Okay, now this one, we should be able to just drag it over and move it 0.1 here, or excuse me, it should be, guess, negative 0.1. And this one will also be negative 0.1. And there we go. Okay. All that to set this up so that we can group these together, and it will punch the hole through there when we group that. Then we can change the height here to the 0.25 that we started with. And this is at least going to be a little thinner. And because of that, we should be able to get this where we want it here. So that's going to be up 0.15. And you can see that size is much more approachable. We just have to fatten up this area here a little bit. And hopefully that will cover everything. Let's go to the top view. And I also need to change this to orthographic just so I can see straight down without any visual differences. And maybe, just maybe, oh, we're so close. We're getting there. All right, so I'm going to move that out of the way. All right, that looks fine. I'm happy with that, I think. Now, what I have to do here is be a little careful because I need to group these together, but I need to group this piece and just the red piece together. So I'm going to group them together. Okay, we're going to change the color to red. And these guys, I'm going to change over to being white so that I can just see that they're there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to try to do here is when we export this, we should be able to export them as a 3D print. Where are we at here? So if I delete that, and we're going to export just this piece as an STL. That's going to do as one. Then I'll undo that delete. I'll go in and delete the white pieces now and export this one as an STL. All right, so here we go. We're going to be able to go in and add both of our models. So we have them both here. We'll hit open, and I'm not going to import these as a single file with multiple parts. Well, let's see what happens if I do that, because I don't actually know. We're going to go over to the Objects tab here, and you can see that we have 1 and 2, but they're both the same color. I believe I can right-click on this and change the filament and change that to red, and now I have that thing ready to roll. Oh, man, super cool. All right, so let's go ahead and slice that plate up and just see what happens to us here. We're going to send that to the printer. I'm going to leave it as it is because I believe those are how we're set up here. Yes, it is. And then I'll hit send. And it's going to take 2 hours and 15 minutes to print out and do its thing. But once it's printed, I'll have a candy cane. And I think it's going to be enormous compared to what I need it to be. But I just more of proof of concept wanted to see if this works. So we'll see what happens with this one. And I'll report back to you when it's done. So why does this design not work? It's beautiful, it's great. The problem is I picked something that has a really thin area to put the circle for the back. And because of that, I had to make this thing much bigger than what I was planning on. If we take a look at it in comparison to this, they're the same size. And having 2 of these of the exact same size doesn't work. It's supposed to be smaller so it can fit on there, no problem. It fits without any problem. Like that part's not a big deal. It's on there, no big deal. But the wreath itself gets completely covered up. It kind of ruins the whole point of what we're doing here, to make this a decoration to go on this. My idea with this is to make it year-round, so it's up in my house all the time, and I just change up the little stud things that it makes it look nice and festive for whatever time of season. For spring, I could put eggs or flowers. In fall, I have leaves. In wintertime, I can put on snow stuff. I can get other things. But this one in particular doesn't fit what I needed to have. So I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. I have a whole bunch of other ideas. I wanna get some snowmen, I wanna get some Santa hats, some stockings, just some general Christmas stuff, and then also move into winter stuff. I can get snowflakes and all those things made. The big thing I need to remember is to design for not what I want, but what I need. I wanted to have candy canes. I thought it'd be a fun project. I thought it'd look cool and introduce the red and white on the green. I thought it'd look great. But what I wanted is not what I needed. What I needed was something that fit on the existing wreath and then also was able to be printed to not totally conquer the wreath. So I spent a lot of time designing, a lot of time printing, a lot of time tuning and fine tuning, only to find out that it didn't work. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. It's some wasted hours and some wasted plastic, but it's an important thing to do when you're going into the design process. Always just remember what your end goal is, not necessarily what you want, but what you need. So hopefully you learned something from this. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll be back soon with some more things for the LEGO Wreath. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.